Hi guys, you're welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Iyoluwajayi and it's good to have you here again. First, let me say a huge thank you to all those who watched my first YouTube video. I think we have close to like 280 views and over 140 subscribers. I think about 150 now actually. I'm super excited about you deciding to come with me on this journey, and yes, it's going to be amazing. So as you can probably tell from, if you're just watching me for the first time, please, like, before you just continue this video, just hit the subscribe button. Now let's get straight to it. So you must probably tell already from the title of this video that I want to share with you tips and tricks to get a band 8+ in IELTS writing. And I'm going to be speaking in this video specifically to the academic writing. For the general, I'm probably going to do another video for that, just so I don't lump things together. So and yes, I have the authority to speak concerning this because I had a band 8.5 in my writing in my very first attempt. Very first attempt. So I'm going to be sharing with you some tips and tricks that can help you, those that worked for me, and I'm sure that they work for you as well. So if you see me looking down, it's because I have scribbled some things down and I'll be speaking from my notes. So let's get right into it. The first thing is to read and understand the question. That's the very first thing I'm going to talk about. It's very important to read the question and grasp exactly what the question is talking about, because without understanding the question, you would not be able to answer it appropriately. So a question might be asking you to give your opinion, to examine two sides of a discussion and give your opinion. Another question may be asking you to whether you agree or disagree. Another question may be asking you to examine a point and give advantages and disadvantages. So you need to read the question very well to understand what is expected of you, because without doing that, you're basically missing the point, and when you miss the point, you don't get any point. So that is very important, to read and understand the question. Tip 2 is the use of linkers. Very important. You should, and okay, let me explain what I mean by linkers. I mean paragraph linkers. All of us know that when we write, we're expected to write in paragraphs. So, and paragraph linkers include stuff like firstly, secondly, furthermore, also, in addition to, things like that, that allow your thoughts to flow appropriately. So furthermore, in addition to, also, all those things that allow the reader to follow your train of thoughts, basically, to understand what you're saying. So you're not just lumping points together, you're placing your paragraph strategically and you're using these linkers to explain yourself. So for instance, if you're going to talk about 3 points in one paragraph, you're probably going to say firstly this and this. Once you're done with that, you're going to move to the next one by saying also this and this, or furthermore this and this. So rather than just lumping all points together, it is very important to use your linkers and use them appropriately. And by appropriately, I mean you should not be using also where you mean however. So if you're contrasting 2 points, if you're trying to say people like red and blue, but for me, however, or but for me, I like pink and yellow. There, you can't use also. You can't say people like red and blue. Also, I like pink and blue, because you're trying to contrast 2 opinions. So you should know how to use these linkers appropriately. That's the second tip. Tip 3, don't use 2 words where you can use 1. So it's important to use your vocabulary carefully, because the examiner wants to know that you have a good command of English. So by using 2 vocabulary, for instance, rather than say very important, you can say it's crucial, or you can simply just say important. So where you can express yourself appropriately in 1 word, don't use 2, because using 2 can, 1, complicate things, make it difficult to read, and also suggest that you don't know how to communicate yourself appropriately. Another example is to say, oh, she made her point very clear. You can easily say she was articulate, you know, rather than use two words to mean one thing. It shows that you have a wide range of vocabularies with which to express yourself. So that's tip 3. Tip 4 is to use strong verbs. So it's closely tied to what I just explained too. So verbs that are very strong, that are, I don't know if assertive is the word now, but they are strong, they give an impression. Yes, that's it. So for example, if you're trying to say Ioluwa got an offer, it might be more appropriate to say she received an offer. Verbs that just are strong rather than use common verbs. Now this is not to say that you can't use common words, because it's important to also keep your words as simple as possible. But where you have stronger words to use that are not extremely complex, it's advisable that you use them, because it means that beyond the general understanding of English, you know words that can fit to express yourself. I hope that makes sense. So that is tip 4. For tip 5 is to ensure that you don't write the way you're speaking. About a month or two ago, about a month ago, I had the opportunity to coach a few people preparing for the IELTS writing exam, and this was the strongest problem I had to work with them in solving. A lot of people write the same way they speak, and that could be very challenging because you're writing, basically you're not speaking. So if you write the same way you speak, it's going to be difficult for the examiner to understand your point. So for instance, saying, for example, if you want to say, oh, things are expensive in the market and people will have to do this, using things like you as if you're speaking to the person that is reading you can make it really, really complicated. So saying you would have to go to the market to get this, it basically gives an impression that you don't know how to strike a distinction between when you're speaking physically to somebody and when you're writing. I hope that makes some sense. So things like saying you should rather be saying one would have to do this, one would have to do this, because you're not speaking to somebody in particular, you're speaking to whoever is going to read your paper. So that is one of the examples of writing appropriately rather than writing the same way you speak. And another thing is to keep a neutral tone, still under not writing the way you speak. You know, not expressing too much emotions like anger, like all of those emotions in your writing. They don't have to be too obvious. Not generalizing. For example, they're saying maybe in support of a point, you're having to say everybody does something. It might be too extreme to make generalizations like that. No matter how popular the opinion is, it's better to keep it simple and not just express, you know, anger and all of that in your writing. So that's another point. And the next point, I think that should be tip 7, is to not use contractions. And by contractions, I mean shouldn't, wouldn't, haven't, isn't, all of that. It's important to break your words down appropriately. So if you want to say isn't, it should be is not, cannot, would not. Don't do it. Don't use contractions. And the next, or I think the last tip I'll be talking about, is content over correctness. Thanks. So your content is very, very important, and it does not really matter whether your view is the popularly accepted view. So for instance, if there's an essay that asks, this is just an example, it's not likely to happen, if there's an essay that asks you to talk about whether it's ethical to walk naked on the streets, it does not matter that the popular opinion is that people should not walk naked. As long as you have points, if you decide to write that everybody should have their freedom, they should be able to walk naked on the streets, as long as you have points to support what you're writing, that's what it is. And tied closely to this is, you don't always have to tell the truth. And this is not to say, oh, there's liberty for everybody to tell lies, but the truth is that nobody knows what's the truth. So when you're writing, you write for something that you have the most points for. So if you prefer, for example, if the question is mixed gender schools over single sex, or mixed sex schools over single sex schools. Even if in your heart of hearts you prefer mixed sex schools, you really don't have to write it, because your examiner doesn't know you personally. Your examiner would likely not even know what your preference is except what you tell them. So it is important to write what you know you have the most points in support of, even if that is not exactly what is your opinion. I don't know if that makes sense. So even if that's not what you think, even though that's not correct, even though it's not popular, even though it's not morally right, as long as it's what you think you have the most content or the most points in support of, because at the end of it is really what you can defend while you're writing. You don't want to get to the middle of your script or the middle of the exam and you're stuck. You've written only 2 points and you have no more points to write about. So it's very important that you examine both. If you're asked to pick a side, it's important that you examine both sides and you think about it. What side of this coin do I have the most points in support of? And you pick that and you basically write about it. So content over correctness. So these are the tips that I would want to share with us today. If you've written the exam before and you have additional tips, please drop them in the comment section. If you don't agree with me on any of the tips that I have shared, please let me know in the comment section. And if you're preparing for the IELTS exam, you have my best wishes. I know that the IELTS writing exam is one of the toughest, or is the toughest of the 4. That's of listening, speaking, writing, and reading is the toughest. But you can do it. That's just what I will tell you, because I mean people have done it. Band 8, 8.5, and all of that. So you can do it. You just need to practice. IELTS writing is about practice. You cannot read it. You have to write it. So don't go about reading what other people have written on the internet. Actually pick a pen and try your hands on practice questions. And as you try your hands on practice questions, it's also important that you get people to assess your writing for you so that they can make those corrections. And if you're preparing for the exam, like I mentioned, and you need somebody to assess your writing for you, please reach out to me. I would gladly do that for you. Drop a comment or drop your email or send me an email and we'll just pick it up from there. Like I said, practice, 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 and keep practicing. And I wish you all the best. See you in the next video.